Hello, good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone in EP1. I hope you're doing well. Got a lot of interesting things going on. We're going to be talking a bit about predictable word stress this week and getting a bit more into lesson planning and introducing your first lesson. You're going to be making your own video lesson. It's quite exciting. And it's why we're here, so that's good. First few things, let me bring it up, make sure I didn't lose it. I mentioned last week that I emailed a person at Flipgrid, and it's an actual person. I got an actual answer, so that's nice. So I can't pronounce Jornea, Jornia. I don't know how to say their name, but they're very nice. They provided some answers to the questions and concerns that we had. The one in particular about the view numbers, because I was worried about that. We had hundreds and hundreds of view numbers, and they were able to explain it a bit. In that, when somebody watches a video, that counts as a view. But if you're using the mobile, using your phone, and you just scroll past, that counts as a view as well, which I think is cheating, to be honest. I think that's cheating, and it's not good programming on their end, but it's a way of boosting view counts. Facebook does the same. If you ever use Facebook or Instagram as well, if you don't even look at it, you just scroll past it and it plays a tiny bit, it counts as one whole view. And so they can inflate their view numbers for advertisers. For Facebook, that's what I mean. I don't know why Flipgrid does, because they don't have advertising. But that explains why we had such absurd view numbers. I was worried about that, and he was able to provide an answer. And so, but for the moment, everything should be what they called in moderated mode, and that I can see all the videos as the educator, but you can't see each other's. So that should be something. There are some differences between the desktop version and the mobile version of Flipgrid, and that's where some of the problems are coming in. It seems like Flipgrid still has quite a bit to sort out. So, but it is showing a lot of promise, and I'm very happy so far with what we've been doing with the the word stress homework. Effectively, it's that's something that we would do in class. We do together, and it's something we can simulate a little bit in this environment, while not making it public, because I don't know, there's some weird people out there with some weird interests that we don't need their attention. So I like this walled garden environment Flipgrid provides for that. So for that, quite happy. And just also note, on our schedule, we were supposed to have a vacation week for week 6. I believe Professor Pakmie has already informed you that with distance learning, we don't need a vacation week, really, because things are what they are. Especially since you can watch this and participate in the class and the material at your leisure within the week. So we're not taking a week off. We're going straight at it, which is great. All right, and we talked about that. We talked about this. Good. With that, let's kick into it a bit about word stress, going back into word stress patterns and just reviewing a bit about how word stress patterns work, and then to talk about more into lesson planning, and then introducing your project effectively. So we'll talk about those. All right. So last week we started talking about word stress and how when we put stress on my brain's scattered. The weather's very beautiful. I want to go outside, but here we are. Where in a word we place stress. We talked about heavy syllables and light syllables. You talked about that in your other class, in your other section. So I'm keeping it much more simplified and something that you can try to explain to students in easier to understand words. Because elementary school students, they ain't going to understand heavy syllables and light syllables. It's nonsensical to most normal people, especially children. So let's get into that. We talked last week before, we've heard about even though if it's the same sound, if it's the noun form or the verb form, the stress is in a different place. And that's one of the clues we have about if it's the noun or the verb form. So, for example, check out, go to checkout and pay your money. Go to the checkout and pay your money. The stress is on the first part, check. But if you want to check out that book, go to the library, go to the counter and check out your book, then the stress is on the second syllable. The example being conduct, conduct, object, object, present, present. Pronunciation changes as well. That's something we'll get into in later weeks. Workout, 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 workout. Those are things we work. So it's something to be aware of. Something I want you to, until we reach a certain level of fluency, don't try to overstress your words, overstress your speech. Otherwise, it sounds very unnatural. If you don't need. You don't need to stress everything. Otherwise, it's overly dramatic all the time. You sound angry, you sound over enthusiastic, and it just sounds really weird, all right? So before you get to fluency levels of higher, don't try to overstress things, unless you want to emphasize it, of course. But let's keep it simple for now. All right. Another word stress pattern we have is about numbers. This is a really tricky thing, 13 and 30, 13 and 30. Depending on how you say the word, 13, and say it fast with not enough stress on the in part, 13 and 30 are very close. This is true for all the teens. 14, 40, so with how people naturally speak, 1440, 1440, 15, 50, 1550, 1550, 1550. They're not enunciating because that's how a lot of people just naturally talk. It's hard to hear, but do understand that when we talk about numbers, especially the teens and the T's, we put stress on the second syllable to try to make it more comprehensible, to make it more easier to understand. But even then, we have trouble understanding that. So don't feel bad if you misunderstand. Native speakers do. Husband and wives misunderstand. There's lots of humorous anecdotes. Oh my goodness. Humorous anecdotes about such misunderstandings. All right. Next, we talk about ate, A-T-E ending words. Verbs ending with A-T-A, ate, are pronounced like ate, the number 8. Nouns, adjectives, and adverbs pronounced like it. So we have example sentence. I will graduate 8 next year. I am a graduate. Graduate. I will graduate. You will graduate. I am a graduate. You are a graduate. Same spelling, but different sounds. So be aware of that and where we place the stress in that as well. Estimate and estimate. So can I have an estimate? So, but could you estimate how much money you spend every year? Could you estimate how much time you spend studying English? Things like that. What is your estimate of how much time you spend studying English? So those are examples. All right. That's the basics of our some predictable word stress. Trying to keep things simple. Let's get into lesson planning a bit more. We've mentioned it briefly. Talk about eliciting vocabulary. I'm going to upload some supplementary reading online as well, so hopefully you can see it. So when we talk about lesson planning, we have the different sections of a lesson plan. And so online, you will find blank lesson plans, and you'll see different sections of the lesson plan. But so when we make a lesson plan, think about what is the learning goal. Some people, I used to use the students will be able to at the end of class. What are the students going to be able to do or understand by the end of your lesson? So what is the goal? What do you want to teach? What will the students learn? And also try to think how you can teach your students effectively within your time constraints, your physical constraints of the actual classroom, and budget restraints, money, time, students, how many you have. A nice way to teach weather is to if you can simulate it quite literally, but that's a bit over dramatic to make fake snow and things. So lessons have basic sections of it. Some people I like to use the boring generic introduction, pre-teaching, activity, main activity, consolidation and conclusion, or review and closing. Some people like to use phrases hook, book, look, took. They're the same thing. Lessons follow the same patterns, even if we use different terminology. They're the same things effectively. With that, let's go over a bit more detail, just to review, because I think some of us might forget to read this by themselves. We'll just go over a bit the supplementary reading. Since when you're teaching English, you're teaching EFL. You'll see this from ESL, but Korea is not an ESL situation context of learning. It's an EFL, English as a foreign language. Just be aware of that. So when you're designing the lesson, when that time comes, think about how much time you have for your lesson, for your activities, and try to keep things working and moving. The suitability of your material for your students, for their levels, for their age, and for their interest levels. How are students grouped together? You need to pay attention to that. How can you supplement the textbook? You will have a textbook most certainly, but then the textbook isn't definitive. You can add on and adjust and reorganize things and adapt for your students. It takes extra time, but if you have that time, you can make for much better lessons. Something that's quite important after you do a lesson is review yourself, how things went and how did things go well or things not go well. What could have gone better? Did something work very well? Then if there's a particular activity that was a banger and everybody loved, then you want to keep using it. You want to make it add into your rotation and use it again in the future. But sometimes activities don't go well, and you need to think about why. Was it something you did? Was it just a bad day with the students? Those happen. Sometimes the kids just, they don't want to do it. Sometimes they're in moods. That happens. Sometimes you're in a mood. That happens. So you need to identify if there is a problem with your lesson. What was the problem? Is it a solvable problem that you can fix and adapt for in the future? Or if it's something you can't fix, it's an inherent problem with the activity, with the lesson, with the inappropriateness of the material. What that means is, was it too difficult for the grade level? Was it something that students really don't care about? For example, pre-colonial American history class for Korean third graders. Pre-colonial means before white people came to America. That's Native American, the natives. Are Korean third grade students going to have a great interest in that? Probably none whatsoever. So a lesson about that kind of thing, about the pre-Columbian contact, then it's probably not going to go well. So it's something to be aware of that, even if it's not a bad activity, not a bad lesson, it may be a bad situation for it, and you'll need to just not use it again. Goodness, I'm coughing. So some things to pay attention to. with that, let's get into your first big project and how things are going to go. Under class materials, you'll find a video lesson. And in the past, before this year, this used to be a group lesson, which is unnatural, but it was a necessity based on the situation of students. So in this case, you have a more natural environment because you're making the lesson by yourself, but you are making a video lesson. You are going to make a 3 to 5 minute. So have it be short. You're going to teach a certain concept, a certain topic. Those topics I've provided for you. These are all titles from textbooks called Our World. There's different target grades and functional language and content language. Functional language are the grammatical forms. Content language is the vocabulary that we plug into the functional language to make sentences, to make phrases. For example, content language would include beans, mango, coffee. Those are content language. Functional language would be I like, do you like. So those do you and I like, things like that by themselves have no meaning. Functional language doesn't have meaning by itself. So content language and functional language come together to make a meaningful communication. So you're going to teach functional language and content language, and you'll be targeting a certain grade, 3rd grade or 5th grade or 6th grade, as I recall. You can choose any one lesson to teach. Anything you want, that's fine. And since you're going to have short lessons, you can pare down how much content language and functional language you're going to be teaching. So you can choose. For functional language, you'll need to teach all of it, honestly, because there's not a lot of it. It's usually, for most of the lessons, it's 1 or 2 phrases. So, but content language, some of the lessons have 7 or 8 vocabulary. For such a micro lesson, we can pare that down to 3 to 5 words. You can. If you want to teach more vocabulary, you can, but if you find that it's too much, you can shorten it to fewer vocabulary words. But you must teach at least 3. So you're going to choose. Your first task is to choose what lesson you want to teach. And because this is an independent lesson, making videos, you're all making your own videos, then you will be, you can choose whichever one you want, but you need to choose one of them. All right. And so you're in your lesson, you're going to introduce yourself. You have a bit of pre-teaching with vocabulary, and you'll make a short activity of something you can try, then a conclusion and review. Some important things. It is an English lesson, so you need to use English. 100% English in your little lesson. Also, this is a complete project in that you need to make sure everything is correct, all your language is correct, that you're teaching correct language to students. So make sure there's no spelling or grammatical mistakes in your material. That's quite important. If you use what we call supplementary material, if you find a song online, that's fine, you can. But that song does not count as time. As in, it can count at most 30 seconds of how much of your total lesson. In the past, some students, they made a video, but 90% of the video was a song from Pinkfong, and that was it. That's what they gave me. That's not good. So please make sure that you make your own lesson and how you do it. Now, this is not going to be public. You're going to upload to YouTube, make an unlisted video, and you're going to give me the link. But one of the requirements that the university now has is peer review. You are going to, I'm going to provide a grade and evaluation feedback on your lesson, but you're going to give feedback to each other. Now, last year, that was easy in the classroom. We could provide review and feedback based on our lessons and activities. This time it's a little more difficult. So a few of your classmates are going to watch your video and provide feedback. And I'll provide more clarification what kind of feedback you're going to give and how to give it later on. But it's something that we're going to work out. But don't get too stressed. But it is a requirement that we need to do, and it is something we need to take care of, and we'll get on to that. All right. I'm going to attach an example video that I made last semester of me making a 3-minute lesson, just so you don't need to go overboard with it, but you do need to produce. You do need to show something. Don't worry too much this time about your video quality. I don't think you have Adobe Premiere Pro on your computer. And if you do, I don't think you paid for it. I'm not judging. I just think you're a university student and you don't pay for software. I didn't when I was in undergraduate, so don't worry about those things. Don't worry about your microphone not sounding very good. But it's time you need to start practicing how to make videos and make them better and make them good, because this is a new skill that you're going to have to start learning. And so it's better to get good now while you're still young and in your first year than when you're in your 12th year teaching. So things to bear in mind. There'll be supplementary material to read. This lesson was a bit light on pronunciation, but this class is pronunciation practice and teaching, and practical teaching. So this is where the practical teaching comes in. So please take a look at your materials. I'll be providing links. And make sure to watch the example video. It'll be attached in the class material, in the lesson materials for this week as well. It should be something indeed. All right. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you stay wonderful. I hope you stay healthy. And if you have questions or concerns, please ask me. We're getting to the thick of it now. The fun time is just beginning. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good week and goodbye.